3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. I'm going to do it without the pen in my hand. 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the What Do We Do podcast. I'm your host, Dewey Stephan, and today is another guest episode. That's where we bring on a leader in the community who has a story to tell, knowledge to share, and advice to give. And then we invite them on into the studio to join our team, where together everyone achieves more. And today's guest is Dr. Eddie Connor, and he is such an amazing leader in our community. I'm going to tell you just a few things about him, and then we'll bring him on. Dr. Eddie is a best-selling author, college professor, international speaker, and TV host. He also is a survivor of stage 4 cancer, and now he spends all of his time empowering others to overcome their obstacles. Truly amazing. In addition to that, Dr. Eddie has authored 16 books, including the one we're going to talk about today, Identity, and the critically acclaimed My Brother's Keeper. In addition to that, Dr. Eddie is a recipient of the President Barack Obama Volunteer Service Award and the Presidential Barack Obama Lifetime Achievement Award from the White House. Also, I'm not done. He is recognized as one of the top 35 millennial influencers in America and listed in the top 100 leaders in Who's Who in Black Detroit and named to Michigan's Chronicles Top 40 Under 40. Last, but certainly not least, Dr. Connor is the cousin of one of the world's most influential entertainers and musicians, the late legendary Prince. I'm going to say that again. Last, but certainly not least, Dr. Eddie is the cousin of one of the world's most influential entertainers and musicians, the late legendary Prince. Dr. Eddie grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, but now lives in Detroit, Michigan. With all of that, Dr. Eddie, welcome to the show.
What an honor to be on your show. This is what we do. Glad to be on What Do We Do.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to say Wagwan.
Jamaica.
Okay? Jamaica
Come
man.
on, real team.
Jamaica
no
man.
problem.
Absolutely, no problem, man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to have a great hour. I'm so excited to have you here. Your story is amazing. You're phenomenal, and I can't wait to share with our entire community, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you ready to get into it?
Let's go.
All right. Well, we're going to start with some deep questions. We're going to start by getting into it right off the bat. I have a game I like to play called High Low. And what that means is I'd like to know what the high point of your life has been to this point, and also the low point of your life to this point.
Oh, high point, being recognized as one of 62 men in America to receive the President Barack Obama Volunteer Service Award for the work I'm doing in the community, for mentorship, for giving back, for really amplifying the fact that service is the rent we pay for the space we occupy. So a few years ago in DC, was invited to come there and to receive that award. So I got this gold medal and award from the written letter from the president. So it's one of those awards that are up there, you know, in the pantheon of one of my, you know, proudest achievements. Low point, I would say losing my grandfather. This year marks the 10-year anniversary that he has passed on. And so my grandfather, Harry Smith Jr., was a teacher, was a leader, was a scholar in many cases, as well as a World War II veteran. He actually didn't start school till he was 12 years of age, simply because he was working in the fields of sharecropping in Texas, and persevered, being teased as the biggest, of course, the tallest kid in class, but he was really adamant about getting his education and wound up becoming a teacher. And I've walked in his footsteps and tried to be half the man he was to live the best life.
So that's an amazing high.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to hear about the low.
Yeah.
But as I was doing some research and talking to some of your friends about yourself, learning that your parents got divorced when you were a child, and hopefully you'll share some of that. That could have been a low point. Also, being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer when you're still in high school, that's got to be a low point. So really, that is a testament to the relationship you had with your grandfather, I would guess. So celebrate that. Amen. But maybe why don't we pivot? So thank you for sharing very much and being vulnerable right out of the gate. But let's get into it. Maybe tell your story your way. I gave some high points. I let the low points come to you. But how about we go from there?
Oh, absolutely. 2023 marks 23 years of me being cancer free. And so to overcome obstacles, to find the can of cancer, so to speak, I really believe your test is a testimony, your misery is ministry, your mess is a message, your stumbling block is a stepping stone. What God will do is He'll use your setbacks as a setup for your greatest comeback. He'll use your tragedy as strategy. And find grace from grief is really where my life aligns. And I'm a living witness that you can bounce back from the setback, and going through the trauma, the tears, my father not visiting me one day in the hospital. People I thought were praying for me were literally praying on me. Sitting on the sideline expecting my demise, to watch my hair fall out of my hair, to get chemo and radiation 5 days a week, to not be around my classmates at a time where identity crisis is everything, and I'm in high school. And then to be told years after coming out of cancer, to walk into a store and see a guy who I recognize, and he recognized me, didn't say what up though, didn't say hello, didn't say what do we do, he just said, I thought you died. Imagine greeting somebody like that, and it sent chills through my body, heat and chills. I was getting ready to have a Will Smith, Chris Rock moment. I wasn't gonna be Chris, and so to bounce back and let people know, listen, I didn't die, I multiplied. I lived through dying places. And that's my claim to fame. That's the glory of the story, so to speak. And letting people know that, a death sentence doesn't have to necessarily be a life sentence.
So how did you overcome that? So what helped the cancer, again, go into remission? And then from there, what did catapult you? Is it, your faith? Is it some friends that did visit you in the hospital? You graduated high school, certainly graduated college as well. So maybe then take the story to the next step.
Dealing with depression, mental discombobulation, just the angst. You talk about mental health. All of it coalesced into one. Sometimes you go through things that you wouldn't even wish on your worst enemy. And if it wasn't for a praying mama, my praying mother who told me, he said, everybody gets knocked down in life, but a knockdown is not a knockout unless you stay down. You got to get back up again. Muhammad Ali said the canvas is no place for a champion. And so being able to bounce back from that setback and taking my mind to the level of, this is just one more treatment closer to total healing. As long as I'm alive, I can still fight. I can still believe. I actually had a hat from Make-A-Wish Foundation while I was dealing with cancer when I lost all my hair, signed by Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant. I still have that hat to this day. This was when he was wearing not 24, number 8. First iteration of the being with the Lakers, and those little things, people coming into your life, saying a word of encouragement and empowerment, helped to change the trajectory of my mindset and think positive in a negative situation.
I've had similar situations in my past, and I'm not going to revisit those today. I've talked about them in prior podcasts, but do you come from a position of positivity and every day is a beautiful day above ground, so to speak, or the other way, I'm going to prove my haters wrong, or I'm just going to do this for myself. I don't have anybody, so I'm just going to make it my own. Everyone has their network, everyone has who they would go to, but kind of where did you, again, find that strength in addition to your crying mama, as you said,
Definitely a praying mother, but also the whole aspect of personal faith. Believing that there was something greater for me to do here on this planet, and God may allow me to go through the suffering, but there's a blessing that's coming out on the other side. And believing that, taking my mindset to that, and then also being a competitor. Nobody can for you to beat me, you're gonna have to rip my heart out. You know, I'm a competitor, and it's really not against anybody else. It's me versus me. What can I do to get better today than yesterday? To where the achievement is, all right, I've improved in this area. I've taken my life to this level. I've grown. I've healed. I've developed in this particular area, and the only person who can beat me is me. And I just began to internalize that fight and say, all right, this is the worst thing I'm ever going to deal with and grapple with. If I can beat this, I can beat anything. If I can beat this, I can deal with the challenges of today and tomorrow and yesterday, and healing from the vestiges of my past. And that's what I internalized. I took that on.
I think that's amazing, and I agree with you 110%. We've had other guests on this show. They talk about grit.
Yeah.
And grit is such a word that I think it's going to become maybe the word of 2024. I mean, it may be here now, but again, you have to be a competitor. You have to fight against yourself, right? And that just gives chills down my spine. I've got 3 children who aren't so young anymore, but I see that there are times when their back's against the wall, they have grit. When they need to get something done, they have that attitude, that competitive, I've got to get this done. I know I can succeed. But there are other times where they take the foot off the pedal. They just like, yeah, this is cool. And, whether that's a C student that could be a B student that could be an A student, but hey, all I got to do is get a C to pass the class, right? And so I think at some point you can't, I don't have the eloquent speak that you have, Dr. Eddie, but, you have to take a pause once in a while. You burn out if you cruise all the time, I guess, at your highest level. But do you know what I mean? And that's where I'm going to spend my time trying to peel back. How do people find that grit or that competitive? Because whether it's in the inner city of Detroit to, I don't know, the suburbs where, some people that have a better means are left alone because different situations. Do you know what I mean? It's like an individual situation.
I think so. And I think it's, life situations. 2 people can be going through the same thing and one internalizes it differently. I think it's really about a mindset shift. To where you can go through and some people can go through and not grow through. And I think the grow through comes through the grit of what it is that you experience and say, all right, there's something better for me on this other side. You can't just rest on your laurels. You can't get down on yourself. You deal sometimes with the continuum of depression, of mental angst and anxiety and things of that nature. But it is the fact that I've overcome. I'm taking one step to get better each and every single day. And I think that's, the fortitude and the fire of really how you bounce back and how you now use that story to help somebody else come out as well.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So what was the stepping stone or your entrance into the world of sharing with others? Was it your first book? Did you just get on stage? Did you, pull someone out of the water that was drowning? So, what was it that took it from just you and your fight to the masses?
I never wanted to be a speaker at all. I never wanted to do what I'm doing now. I never even saw myself doing it. It is actually just the fact that people wanted me to start sharing my story of coming out of cancer, whether it's from the American Cancer Society, or whether it's at churches. I shared my first story and actually began empowering people in churches in Kingston, Jamaica, where I grew up, part of my life. And it was a message that it was called Destined to Overcome the Odds. And I think that really became a life journey for me to realize that, this is what it is that I'm going through and growing through. There's so many other people who are dealing and suffering in silence. To be able to silence this shame, to be able to speak life into people's lives and let them know that this is not just the end of the tunnel. This is not just the end of your rope. And even if you're at the end of the rope, tie a knot, hang in there. And so it started from that, and I was kind of forced into it. But it became a love for me to be able to see the reaction, to read the people's faces, to hear the comments and the feedback after people, wow, grown men come in with tears in their eyes. That really spoke to me. And so that really shifted the trajectory of my life to say, all right, on the other side of this pain is purpose. And I think this is the route for me.
So did you write a book? I think I read somewhere that that's what you did do, but what was the message and how did you share it?
Yeah, I wrote my first book with literally $1 and a dream in my name in a dorm room at Eastern Michigan University. And it was actually, I had to be almost almost coerced to do it by my mother. You know, she was really dogmatic about it. She almost had to discipline me to write my book. And I said, all right, I'm gonna write this book. It's gonna be for you. It was called Finding the King of Cancer. It was my first book. I said, I'll never write another book again. And as I was writing, though, I was healing. I had to forgive a father who never showed up for me one day in the hospital. I had to forgive somebody who never gave me an apology. And the bitterness that I had towards him was preventing me from becoming the man that I was supposed to be. And I had to forgive people who I felt dropped the ball on me and just left me for dead. And scattered in the valley, but want to show up when I'm on the mountaintop. And I had to mature through some things. And it was in that isolation where I received personal revelation. And I just began to write transparently and painfully about what it is that I went through. And after you write your first book, generally people are coming back and saying, when's the next one coming? And so, again, as I said, I never wanted to be a writer at all. But writing became therapeutic for me, and each time I'm writing it unveils another chapter in my life. And you know, blessed to be able to do what I do and make not just an income, but an impact.
Right. You're 16 chapters in.
Right, yeah, right, 16.
Right. So we're going to talk about this book right now and get to it. But before I do that, let's close the circle with your father. I have a very similar situation with my dad, and I've never had contact with him since, you know, the event that I had, which was, you know, a version of yours. So have you had contact since your recovery, and is there a relationship with him now, or kind of if you can share that with us?
Yeah, I definitely have, and he apologized to me some years later, but I'm grateful that I had even forgiven him before that. We don't have a close relationship at all, but we're amicable. You know, a lot of times our conversations just surface level sports and entertainment or whatever the case may be, and how you doing and what's life like right now. But I've settled with the fact that he is who he is, but it's not going to stop me from being who I'm supposed to be. And I just use all of that as motivation. I'm grateful that positive male images and role models, you know, like yourself and mentors have come into my life to show me what way to go and what manhood and masculinity is all about, beyond just the performative aspect, but really the whole aspect that manhood is being a mature, assertive nurturer, and accountability, responsibility, maturity. And I think mentors are people who come into your life. You know, life teaches you in two ways: mistakes and mentors. It's better to learn from mistakes of a mentor than to make your own. And so I'm a person who is not hesitant or negligent to ask for help or for guidance. And sometimes when you're in the room of great people, the opportunity is not always to speak, it's to listen. And so being able to be a sponge and absorb information, knowledge, and then follow the trail that was already blazed rather than trying to chart my own path.
Yeah, no, I dig that too. I really appreciate you saying that. On that next step, besides your father and having some closure there, how did you find that other piece? Is it through your faith and praying and going to church? We talk about, again, mental health on these podcasts, that, again, you need to talk to somebody, whoever's out there watching and listening. And again, I'll take a moment to thank all of our listeners out there in podcast world and all of our viewers in YouTube Nation.